There's a great New York Times piece that came out Saturday. It's a very long piece, but it talks about North Korea's nuclear ambitions and how the federal government, particularly the Obama administration, how they use cyber warfare. Probably not any of these tools released in Vault 7 yet. I'm sure we might get around to it, but how the Obama administration, well, they had no choice, right? Military action was not an option. Economic sanctions really was not an option. Putting pressure on China to help with North Korea really wasn't successful, even though China did what they wanted to do. There's only so much China could do. So all of the normal channels of preventing North Korea's nuclear ambitions were scuttled. And all they had left was really cyber warfare. And you've seen, and they documented how many of the attempts, nuclear attempts, and now the missile attempts, particularly the missile, the ICBM attempts, have been scuttled by cyber attacks that caused the missiles to explode prematurely, to not hit their target, and to literally set their program back by years. Very similar, I believe, to Stuxnet, I'm probably saying it wrong, with the Iranian centrifuges, where an American operative went into the one of their main facilities, inserted a USB drive which had a virus on it, and it spun the centrifuges out of control, setting the Iranian nuclear program back, I believe, by several months, if not more than a year. This was before the Iranian nuclear deal. I bring those up because in many regards, cyber warfare is now a new tool in our kit to prevent states from getting nuclear weapons. Because once they get nuclear weapons, we're really dealing with a different game that doesn't that does not afford a lot of intellectual speculation. As much as I love doing intellectual speculation, once North Korea gets an ICBM that can reach Florida, all cards are off the table. There's nothing really left for the United States to do but to do what they do. And so if cyber warfare is now a tool that can actually help prevent us from getting to that place, then it's very difficult for us to sit back and say, well, you know, the United States is wrong for doing these things. But then as soon as we have that conversation, of course, it doubles back to the problem of the Patriot Act and the precedent that has been set that the United States uses surveillance on their citizens just as much as they do enemy combatants. See, it's easy for us to say, let's use these weapons, this cyber warfare against enemy combatants. But then it's hard for us to say, well, once we let them do that with enemy combatants, it's that much easier for them to do it domestically. And there is absolutely, at this juncture, there's absolutely no point in us expecting the federal government to do anything more than what they've shown us they're willing to do. The real question is, what are we as U.S. citizens going to allow and put up with and tolerate to the extent that we even have control over it? Because we see, even with our elected officials right now, it seems as though, the Republicans are all, Donald Trump is opposing the deep state. You even have the InfoWars, which I can't, I'm still wondering why InfoWars hasn't been generally labeled as fake news. I digress. InfoWars has an article out talking about how Trump is the only president to actually wage war against the deep state. You think so? Let's wait until the deep state no longer is embarrassing Trump, but is letting him know, President Trump, we have situation X in which this state can get a nuclear weapon in this many months, and here's our solution, here's our operations. Do you think Donald Trump is not going to approve that operation? And subsequently, by approving that operation, he is empowering the deep state to continue to do what it does. I said all of that to say, you think Donald Trump is opposing the deep state now. He's going to need it, and he's going to utilize it in the very near future. Or if he doesn't, if he's so egotistical that he doesn't, I guarantee you, Democrats and Republicans in Congress, they will unify to veto anything, to override the veto of anything that Donald Trump tries to do that would circumvent national security interests. Guarantee you. So the national security interests are only trumped by economic interests. Capitalism is at the top, then national security. Well, actually, let me state that properly. My professor would be very mad. Underneath the blanket of national security, capitalism is first. So they consider this free market to be the top priority for national security. But that's an entire course, an entirely different conversation.